Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mental Health Warriors and Words as Medicine. I'm your host this evening, Caroline Murphy Bennis, and I have the amazing Kerry Burr with me tonight from the Rainbow Warriors. And we'll be back with you in a second to hear more about Kerry's life story. Welcome back, everyone. Delighted to have you here, and so thrilled to have Kerry here beside me, my old buddy.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you, Caroline.
And we're going to keep it short and sweet tonight because Kerry's got something on. It's not a date now, Kerry, is it? Seen as Valentine's on Monday, is it? No, we won't. She's not telling anyway, but she's busy anyway. So yeah. So Kerry, I'd love this is a chance for people to get to know you a little bit, behind the scenes of the Warriors. So I know you're an NLP coach. We've had lots of different discussions, but maybe for people who don't know about you, Irish people or whatever, if you could just tell us briefly how you got to becoming the human GPS. And I know this is your branding as well, and as well as being on the Mental Health Warriors, it's also your own business. So if you could just fill us in a little bit on that, it'd be amazing.
Yeah, I'll make it as brief as possible. I won't go into massive detail.
Yeah.
Basically, all of mine, I've known right from a really young age that I'm here to help other people. That's my purpose. And I'm absolutely passionate about helping other people. It's just that, when you're a little kid, you don't really know exactly how you're going to be helping others. There's lots of different things available. And I did think at one point that I wanted to be a nurse, and then realised I couldn't deal with other people's vomit. So that kind of, went out the window rather rapidly. But I also then had this urge to teach, but not to be a school teacher. So I knew that there was some way of being able to help other people and educate at the same time. Anyway, kind of, went through life quite a determined young person, really, which kind of got a bit suppressed by everybody else's opinions. So I ended up just doing what I was expected of me, and I got married, and I left home, and I had a mortgage and a house, and I mean a pretty good life, don't get me wrong, pretty good life, but it didn't feel right. It just didn't feel right. And although we're still very good friends, it took us 11 years to realize that it wasn't working. And it was never going to work. And so, of course, I came out of that relationship straight into another one with the person that I considered was the one at the time.
Okay.
And, very blinkered by love, really. And it turned out to be quite toxic.
Okay.
Mainly, there was a lot of controlling and a lot of bullying going on. There was a lot of emotional and mental abuse, is the only way I can describe it, with a tiny little bit of physical abuse thrown in for good measure on the odd occasion. And I'm going to say that kind of ended with, it didn't end immediately that this happened, but I had a nervous breakdown. Lots of different things. It was a big build up to it. But it was like that was the end of my tether. I couldn't take any more. Had this nervous breakdown, lost 24 hours of my life, and then it kind of woke me up. Albeit it took me about 2 or 3 months afterwards. It woke me up, and I realised that I had to get out of there. So I was given the opportunity, thankfully, once I'd got myself back to work, to relocate with the company I was working for. So I moved from one end of the country to the other, pretty much, and to a completely new place. I'd never been there before. The people I worked with, I'd only ever spoken to them occasionally on the telephone, so I'd never really met any of them in person, but absolutely wonderful people, you know. And so I forgot about my purpose, my passion, if you like, for a little while, and just settled into and enjoyed the freedom that I had, absolute freedom. And but it was a few years. It took a few years after that before I actually stumbled across the life coaching. Was what I came across, and I thought, oh, this sounds very much like the kind of thing that I'm looking for, because I'm very much a hands-on person. I'm quite proactive. I'd rather be moving forwards than keep going backwards and analysing and everything else. And it was whilst I was looking into life coaching that I stumbled across NLP. So I read a bit about that, and I suddenly realised that the two together, the two combined, was absolutely what I was looking for. And again, it still took a few more years before I found, before I was actually in contact with a lady who was running a practitioner course. So I said, right, book me on. So I did that, and I trained as the NLP practitioner. I trained as a timeline therapist and a hypnotherapist and an NLP coach. And then I went on to do a master NLP coach, master hypnotherapist, and master timeline therapist. And here we are.
Wow, that's amazing. And you really feel like you're in your groove now. Like, yeah. And you know, it's funny actually, Kerry, because we hadn't decided to talk about another topic, but you know, you said freedom, and that's so weird. It's actually the third person time I've heard that word said to me today.
Really?
So maybe we'll use freedom as our word, you know, freedom as medicine today, because actually, you know, I was talking on the panel this morning with Steve Knapp, and it was about there was five of us actually, and we were talking about addiction, and you know, that came up there as well, freedom. And it was actually, they were the sense of freedom that they were getting from drinking or drugs or whatever, you know. And it's funny how actually I'm just seeing like a pattern there, that actually people were looking forward to that sense of freedom.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It is. It's escaping what you don't like, what's not working for you, and yeah, absolutely, having that freedom to feel good about yourself, having that freedom to look forward to stuff that you want to do. Yeah,
it's like the seat of empowerment, then, isn't it? Like, you know, the way that feeling, because it's just a sense of it. And like what you're saying about, I love what you're saying about moving forward, because like that, you know, you could spend like 10 years looking into your past and analyzing and pulling apart or whatever, but it's not, you know, there is a point to looking back and understanding so that you can gain acceptance. But then once you've got acceptance, then move forward into creating a new life kind of around what you love. And then, you know, just, I suppose, cultivating a sense of freedom, like, is probably a great practice, like, and like trying to find that, because such an elusive, you know, the way I think sometimes like mental health, or even like creatively, I was talking about creative freedom as well. Like, it's something that I think for me, like being restricted creatively is really, probably only the times that I found really kind of distressed or depressed or anything like that has always been kind of when I've been locked into or you know, there was a sense that you're in that corner and you can't get out, and you're kind of frustrated. Actually, that's the feeling we were talking before we came on here, a frustration feeling, you know, that feeling of being tight. We were talking about that just before I came on.
We were, yes.
Yeah, that's the feeling, isn't it? You know,
it
it's
is.
like you've got too big for where you're at nearly. You know what I mean? You're
Yes,
actually,
absolutely. Yeah, it is. You've outgrown it, haven't you?
yeah,
You need that freedom to sort of expand and explore other, wider spaces, wider
yeah,
horizons. Yeah, no, it's funny that it is absolutely that frustration, and that it's almost a feeling of being stuck as well. And I think
yeah,
if, because I know that when we talked about doing this evening, and originally I'd come up with acceptance, acknowledgement, and awareness, acknowledgement, and acceptance. And
yeah,
the awareness is, for me, is being aware of what's happening right now,
yeah,
and being aware of what potentially could happen in the future. Now, I always tell people, steer away from those what ifs, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future.
yeah,
But what we do know is if where we are right now is not suiting us, and if we continue doing what we've always done, the future is not really going to look greatly different to what it does right now.
yeah,
So, and also acknowledging that, acknowledging where we are right now is not useful to us,
mm,
and accepting that the only way those changes can be made is when we go ahead and make them.
yeah,
But that frustration that you were talking about, and we had a brief chat about it before coming on here.
because we were both feeling it.
Yes, yes.
Over
And
the last week.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think
We're trying to find words for it, so we're
yes,
doing it now.
yeah. And it was, I read, I can't remember if I read somewhere or whether somebody told me that it's all to do with Mercury coming out of retrograde. And I don't know a huge amount about astrology,
Yeah,
but I am
yeah,
fascinated by it.
yeah. And somebody told me that today as well, and I was
Yeah,
like, "What does that mean?" Or no, actually, it was last week, and then today as well. And I was like, "What does that mean?" I don't know
yeah,
anything about that. But then you said it to me, so it was the third time. So it's like something I need to learn about. But that's what I was more. I was feeling the feeling of like that being restricted, being too, like being too outgrowing something. Yeah, you're outgrowing your skin. You need to take your skin off and just grow and expand. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of, uh, and I think that's a sense of. It's interesting though because like I suppose then like what you're saying about the what was the third, the acceptance, the
yeah. So awareness,
acknowledgement.
acknowledgement, and acceptance.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's accepting that things are as they are,
yeah,
and that they will be as they are until you change them.
yeah,
And sometimes, as I discovered, you have to make drastic changes, or you have to make drastic moves, take drastic action to make those drastic changes to achieve certain outcomes.
mm,
And sometimes those changes won't happen overnight.
mm,
Sometimes they'll take a while.
mm.
But sometimes they can happen quite quickly, as I discovered.
Yeah. But once you had the awareness of it as well, you know what I mean? Once you realized that there was something needed to be changed and then yeah, accepted it and then something happened for you. Remember you told me the story about, things just fell into place. Like, it was like a domino effect then after
Yeah.
that. But you had to take the action to change things.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was a strange thing because friends had been telling me this for a long time. You've got to get out of there. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. If you want your life to be different, you've got to, make those changes. And I wouldn't listen to them. And so many times I'd find myself sitting there thinking, why is this happening to me? What have I done to deserve this? I don't want my life to be like this, but how can it be any better?
Mm.
I can't move out because I've got nowhere to go, which wasn't true. There were plenty of places for me to go. I was just so
Stuck.
tunnel visioned at that point,
Yeah.
and stuck in the belief that this was my life. This was how it
Mm.
was going to be.
Yeah.
But
that was the effect that had on you as well, the years of that, you know. It was kind of ingrained in you a little bit as well, was it not, you know?
Yes, yeah, it was more the you know, this is your life. This is these are the cards that you've been dealt. Accept them. Make the best of them. Yeah. Nobody had ever told me that actually my life was up to me.
Yeah. You were in the driving seat.
Yeah, exactly. And when I realized that, when I finally woke up and realized that actually, yeah, I do have a choice. I can make my life better. Yeah. I can have better. I deserve better. That was one of the hardest ones, was believing that I deserved better than I had at the time. Yeah. And I've no doubt that there are, sadly, quite a few people out there that are believing similarly, you know, and have been there. So that realization on its own was like, whoa, okay. So I need to do something about this then. What can I do? Yeah. And as it happened, as I said, you know, I was given the opportunity to relocate with a company I was working for at the time, purely because they were making all the office staff in the regional depots redundant. And I was one of the office staff. Yeah. So, of course, first hearing the news, it was like, oh, no, what am I going to do now? And then having a chat with the MD and him saying to me, I understand that relocating might well be an option for you. And I was like, yeah, it might just be. And then literally about 5 days later, having a phone call from HR wanting me to go up to the head office and literally start work there at 9 o'clock on the following Monday morning. So I had 4 days notice.
That's amazing. Isn't it?
I'll be there.
You got the fast track path. Remember I said that to you before? Yeah, I have a poem called that, you know. It's like once you make the decision, it was like, whoo, universe is gone, whoo, get her out of there.
That's it, yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Yes.
Amazing, you know. Amazing, you know, the power of that, you know, like that's fabulous. And what, you know, like advice wise like that, I think it's great for people to even to realize, like, I suppose that there are, it's about self-worth, isn't it, as well?
Oh, it certainly is. Yeah, you know, you've got to, there's a lot that goes on, and it is all about your self-esteem. Basically, you know, I mean, it's self-esteem's a strange one, because it's also quite closely linked with a person's own sort of beliefs of self-importance, ego. So, but you've got to have, if you've got low self-esteem, you're going to think that, you know, well, this is all I deserve. You know, I don't deserve to have that kind of a life. I don't deserve any better than what I've got now. And there's an old saying, isn't there? I must have done something really bad in a past life or something. Yeah. And that's what I believed it.
Yeah, really. I
believed it. But when I look back on it now, and I realized that the day that I left, I felt free. Yeah. And it was like, yeah, I just, I didn't care that it was 4 o'clock in the morning and I got like nearly a 5-hour drive ahead of me. I was getting away from an environment that was bad for me. It was bad for both of us.
Yeah.
You know, but it was bad for me.
Yeah.
And I was the one that I had to look out for. So yeah, you know, we've got freedom there. Yeah. But also what was really, really important with that as well is not just realizing that I'm worth more than that, I deserve more than that, I deserve better than that. You know, it's the very fact that it was like the instant I drove away in my car, everything that had happened up to that point, I forgave.
Mm.
And then over time, I realized that, I had to forgive myself as well, because I'd made the decision to stay there for that length of time.
I know, yeah.
So I'd kind of decided to put myself through that,
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was another step along the road to freedom, complete
Yes.
freedom.
Yeah. And it's that inner freedom, isn't it? Like that kind of, that self, that's the healing kind of, I guess, I suppose. Yeah. Like one step is to, you made that move to physical freedom, and then it was more to that inner freedom, that mental relief from, forgiving yourself for.
Yeah.
But then, like, I mean, the thing is, like, we're all conditioned in different ways,
Yes.
and, I suppose, when we let society rule us, we're never going to be free.
No.
We're always going to be imprisoned, and, in that kind of, so like it takes different circumstances, different things to happen to wake us up, doesn't it, out of that, and
definitely.
there's a million different types of ways that could happen, and it's everybody has their own story, I guess, and but as long as I suppose, like that, it's definitely moving yourself into that place of empowerment where you're in the driving seat, like you said, realizing that it's okay to be in control of your own life, kind of thing. It's like giving yourself the not possibility, but giving yourself the permission.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Knowing that it's okay to follow your dream, I suppose, and if your dream, like mine was, simply at that time to get away and have space, my own space, where I didn't have any of those interruptions, disruptions, and I wasn't constantly being asked, why wasn't this done yet? Why wasn't that done yet? You're doing it the wrong way. I'm going for a night out, you've got jobs to do, kind of thing. It's like, and when I arrived at my destination at that point, it was like, oh my God, I can do whatever the hell I want. I can watch what I want on the TV. I can eat what I want. I can do the housework when I want.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Total freedom, like after being kind of suppressed for so long, like being a teenager again.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely had a complete new lease of life.
Yeah.
And it still took me a long time to really kind of fully come out of that shell that had been sort of built around me, if you like. And even after I came out of that shell, I'd still got this massive fortress around me.
Yeah.
It took me a long, long time to be able to trust people again, and trust myself again, to let other people in, or closer at least.
Yes.
So
that's only natural, though, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because like it takes time for that, but to kind of trust, like you said, it's brilliant to actually say to trust yourself, because that's who you were kind of ultimately, because you were saying to yourself, I allowed this happen to me before, so I'm going to be really careful about who I bring into my inner sanctum. Okay, you can stay on the periphery, like we were talking before, in the moat, like the castle. You can be out there, but you're not coming in here unless you're like really sure. Yeah.
It's like
the drawbridge.
It's almost like social distancing, isn't it? It's emotional distancing, is what it is.
That's it, exactly. And then eventually you allow them, I suppose you build up that trust in yourself, and then you can trust others, and you can have the ability to have those healthy boundaries and discernment, the kind of way, like you build up your discernment around, you know, who's trustworthy, who's not trustworthy, you know, and
Yeah.
you know,
That's so important. Having those boundaries is so important. And just so that anybody that's listening to this, whenever they're watching it, just to clarify, there is a difference between having a boundary and having a
fortress,
a barrier. It's
with a moat around it, like we were saying.
Yep, and a drawbridge. The moat's got sharks in it, so you know, don't even think about it. Yeah, you're going to answer these questions first.
Fill out a question here.
There's a pass mark.
We'll write to you with the answer. It'll be in the post.
That's it. Yeah.
You get your results, your exam results. Oh my God.
Yeah. I can laugh about it now.
I know. Well, you have to. You have to be able to laugh. In hindsight, you know. But you're actually coming up to your half an hour now, Kerry. So do you want to leave with some advice to? It's Valentine's, you know, so we're giving out a bit of advice to have you know, your emotional boundaries, but let people in. But yeah, I suppose about freedom, you know, maybe leave something about freedom.
I think I mean, I've been single and not been involved with anybody for a very long time, through choice. Well, mainly through choice, but partly through that trusting myself issue or not trusting myself issue. Worked on that now. It's fine. It's not a problem. But I think it's definitely absolutely important that you've got to have those boundaries. And it's knowing what you are willing to. The phrase that's coming into my head is put up with.
Yeah.
To put it bluntly, you know, what are you willing to put up with? What do you actually want out of a good relationship, you know? And compromise is another word that's coming into my mind at the moment. So boundaries, knowing what you want, compromise. And I think it's reasonable to say, you know, just let those barriers down, because if you don't knock those barriers down, which I hadn't for a very long time, I mean, for those of you that want to stay single, that's fine. You know, it's not a problem. But if you don't, you've got to let those barriers down. You've got to learn to trust other people. You've got to learn to trust yourself more than anything, because everybody's different. Everybody's different. There are no two identical people out there. Not even identical twins are absolutely identical. So just relax. That's the key word. Just relax and just go with the flow. But, you know, be aware of your boundaries. Be aware of the other person's boundaries as well. Make sure that neither are violated. And I think everybody will get on just fine. Yeah,
that's brilliant advice, you know. Kind of about respecting yourself, really, and respecting other people. That's what I'm hearing you say, you know. I suppose when you had self-respect and then you also respect the other person, you're in a healthy place then. Yeah,
definitely.
Brilliant. Okay, we finished with that.
Short and sweet. For ages.
Short and sweet. I know you're busy lady, but thanks so much everybody for watching and listening. Oh God, the comments I wasn't reading at all. Adam was there and Elizabeth. Sorry guys, we were engrossed. And Ashley, thanks so much. And housekeeping. Tune on Sunday for 2 lives. One with Dorota at 9 a.m. Art with My Medicine, and at 1 p.m. Lucas is on, and he'll be blowing your mind with Rubik's cubes.
Oh, do you know, Lucas is an absolute genius when it comes to Rubik's cubes.
Absolutely. And Adam says, well, Kerry, you're surrounded by your warrior family. I think they were all sick.
Oh,
Adam is sick. He's not well.
I know. I
Yeah,
spoke to him briefly yesterday, and his voice was going.
yeah. I
Yeah,
talked to him
so,
tonight. Yeah, he doesn't sound,
yeah,
he's very husky, you know. Okay, so get better soon, Adam. And thanks
yes.
so much, Kerry.
Thank
Have a
you.
brilliant weekend. And thanks so much for all your advice. And I always love sitting chatting to you. We could chat the whole night.
We'll have a longer chat another time.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and we have another coffee on coffee morning, maybe. Okay,
Yes,
bye everyone.
absolutely.
See you again soon. Bye.